I knew this video was eventually going to be made as a follow-up to my previous analysis, and if you haven't seen it, the link for that video is in the description. And a quick reminder that yes, I did say I thought Petscop 16 was the last one for my own personal reasons, but quite obviously it was not. As you know, if you're watching this, Petscop 17 has been released, and with it, a ton of new and interesting information, which I will be attempting to explain as best I can. Petscop 17 opens on a peculiar note, seemingly starting us where we left off in 16 in the garage. The player, who I'm going to assume is Paul, pauses the game. The pause menu reads, "The ghost room is a ship in a bottle." I'm not exactly sure what that means, and it may be alluding to something in the future. Paul then goes to the options, where he navigates to the sound check. This next part is very reminiscent to me of the old sound check Easter eggs from Sonic CD, which was also said to have a creepy message inscribed into the game. After pressing Kara's bye-bye sound effect a ton of times and then pressing uh-oh, a secret menu appears where you can look at the game's recordings in any room in the game. The player then sets a number known as Gen and starts the game. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that the different iterations here are just previous playthroughs of the location, and that the term Gen likely just shows the timelines of the previous 10 playthroughs. That's more speculation than it is legitimate fact. Then we see the player character walk out of the house backwards before a text box appears. To summarize, it goes into detail about a lot. For starters, we may have gotten Kara's real name, Carrie Marks. The text box addresses Kara being missing in November to a certain extent, and then lists off her family members. A mom named Anna, a dad named Marvin, an aunt named Jill, an uncle named Thomas, and a cousin named Daniel. Then, whoever is addressing the character, and by extension the viewer, mentions something extremely interesting, a curse that affects the past. I urge you to keep this in mind for videos in the past as well as in the future. The rest of the paragraph explains what happened to Kara, disappearing for 5 months and eventually finding her way back home, but different. Once the player character approaches an area, a text box appears explaining that a girl went missing around where the player is, and that the player's dad tried to lure her back with a birthday cake, and instead of using missing girl posters, he used birthday girl posters. She never responded to his attempts, much to his disappointment. The player then summons the question screen, asking what happened to her. The game responds by letting a tombstone surface with a party hat on it. She died at 9 years old, and according to her epitaph, they didn't see her. The video then cuts to Paul making his way to the road in silence, walking up the road until we're left with darkness and silence. But what does it all mean? While I do very much believe the beginning sound test Easter egg to be perfectly in line with the fact that the episode is released on Easter, and there's literally an Easter egg as the profile picture right now, I do believe this was inspired by the Sonic CD creepy message. Secondly, I think that once again the video was trying to show us that this isn't anywhere near the first playthrough of this game, and that the game very much keeps track of the exact movements you make throughout it, which may to some extent explain Petscop's seemingly predictive nature. Third, I think that Leskowitz is just another loose end to keep us guessing and engaged in the storyline of Petscop, seeing as it did allude to a major reveal. There could be subtle details I definitely missed. The beautiful nature of Petscop is that you almost always haven't seen everything there is to see in your first viewing. Something particularly interesting I'd like to share though, is the fact that the last name, Leskowitz, has 9 letters in it. Coincidentally, that also happens to be the same age she was when she died. Of course, I didn't draw a direct connection until I looked at Michael's tombstone. His last name, Hammond, has 7 letters in it. He was 7 when he died. So I think there may be a definite connection between last names and the age before they died. I couldn't tell you why though. As for the ending of this episode, it may be ambiguous, but I do believe that the player going down the road into darkness after seeing 2 cars go by signifies what may have happened to Lisa. They didn't see her does sound like a very dark way to describe someone being hit by a car. That was all I was able to derive from Petscop 17. If you would like to, please share your own theories in the comments. It's greatly appreciated. If you would like to see a certain topic on this channel covered, suggest some. I'm always open into looking into new things. And as always, thank you for watching.